Hey friends. So to quickly check in with my intention that I've articulated for the past 2 days of getting really specific about where I'm headed next, what my next, where the focus of my attention is going to go in a very concrete and specific way. And if you need a kind of recap of how I've gotten to where this decision feels really important, you can check out my last 2 posts. But to check in with that real quick, I started poking around in some of the work that I've actually already done many months ago. And I got really inspired by the work that I've done, specifically on the piano course. And while I'm not yet totally sure that's the way I'm going to go, you know, as I said yesterday, I have these kind of 3 domains. One is piano as a mindfulness practice. Number 2 is creative work in general as a spiritual practice, which I'm also already teaching in many ways, but I have yet to formalize a course out of that. And number 3 is a kind of introduction to the physical practices that I've developed over the years that are really kind of the foundation of everything. Again, I almost feel like the other 2 ideas, the other 2 dimensions of my work are built upon the foundation of a pretty rigorous physical practice. I mean, again, I'm not a fitness guru. I'm not a Qigong master in the sense of the people that I've studied with. There's a whole other level going on with some of those folks. But what I have done is remain really consistent for many years in maintaining my own practice and in developing my own approach in such a way that it really does work for me, and it really does create a stable platform to build my other work upon. And I think that there are some things about the way I do this work that actually in some ways can benefit folks who don't intend to become Qigong masters or yogis, or, you know, who aren't going to spend the kind of time it takes to really become masters of those disciplines, but can still draw massive benefit and massive personal freedom and life freedom from having physical practices. They're physical and energetic. Ultimately, these practices are, I call them physical practices because what we're doing is moving our body. But it's a vast oversimplification, because really there's a physical component, there's an emotional component, there's a psychological component, there's a spiritual component. All of that is at play when you do something like yoga or Qigong. These are incredibly deep, all-encompassing practices. They're meditations in their own right. But the access point starts with the physical body. And so yeah, I clearly, you know, I mean, listen to me. You get me started on it and I go off. So I'm gonna have to kind of get concrete and get cooking on putting something like that together at some point. But all that is to say, I think I may know where I'm going next. Not quite ready to announce yet, but we're getting there. But today's lesson, I mean, this is something that came up yesterday for me. And really, it's kind of been brewing over the course of this week since we got home, because I'm back into, sort of back into the rhythm of things with Annalise, my daughter. And we're exploring some new activities for her, things that she's expressed interest in. She recently brought home her first violin and started playing it and got really just totally enthusiastic about it. It was like it completely drew her in to experience holding an instrument and making sound with it. It was just remarkable to watch. But that journey of watching her enter new activities has been one where I feel like I'm learning a lot, both about parenting and about my own impulses. And what I mean by that is, Annalise is someone who is an incredibly, I guess the way that I'm inclined to say it is that she's an incredibly conscious and aware young person. You know, she's not yet 4 years old, so she's 3 and 10 months. But she has an awareness that's really pretty fascinatingly sharp. And she also has, as I believe I've talked about on this post, she has a really powerful desire to be good at things, to feel competent. So this is both a real blessing because she engages with stuff quickly, she learns quickly, but it's also, it can be a challenge in the sense that new things that are totally unknown feel scarier than they would to someone who's kind of just willing to experiment, is not so invested in being good at it, right? They just kind of can play. And this is something that I, certainly from my own life, I've observed this, you know, I've observed my own tendencies, which are very much in alignment with Annalise's. And I've obviously, you know, I've lived a life. I've seen other people. I've watched other people approach everything from sports to school to games to social life to music, and the willingness to just be playful and experiment is one that comes very naturally to some people, and those are people that I've gravitated towards because it's sort of liberating to experience someone else in that space, and it invites me out of my tightly controlled space a little bit. So these are observations I've made in the past about Annalise, and in my parenting, I feel like I'm working with that. I'm working with all these elements. But something that has showed up recently, in the last, yesterday we went to a new dance studio, great place. I got a wonderful vibe from them, and but Annalise was really kind of afraid. She was like, "Oh, don't sign me up. I don't know if I want to do it." She was clearly a little bit intimidated by this place. And the people were extremely nice and it was not an environment where I felt like there was a lot of pressure or anything. It felt like a healthy environment. And yet Annalise had this response of like, "Oh, I'm a little afraid of this." And the day before, earlier yesterday, we'd gone to her swim class again, which she's now done. I think this was number 5. So she's done several of these classes before, but we were on vacation, so it's been a few weeks. So we were coming back to it, and there was like, "Oh, I'm scared. I don't know if I want to go to my swim class. Will I get a new teacher?" She's always afraid she's going to get a teacher she doesn't know and that she doesn't like, even though every single teacher she's ever met, she's loved. And so we're building that experience. But she was afraid of that. And then as soon as she walked through that door, she was laughing, cackling with glee in that swim class. I saw her in the class just having the time of her life. So, and that was my experience at the very first swim class too. She was really resistant, really afraid. "No, I don't want to go. Don't sign me up. Don't make me go." Well, she kind of got pushed through that door, and boom, day 1, had an amazing experience. Loved her teacher. Just couldn't stop talking about her teacher for the entire week. the day before that, the day before yesterday, we went to her violin lesson, which again, she had been to her violin lesson before. She'd met the teacher. She loves the teacher. But she was afraid of playing the instrument. She said, am I going to have to play a violin? What's that going to mean? And so but we go in, we get this, correctly sized violin. She picks it up, she starts making sound, and she didn't want to stop. I mean, she would have played right through dinner. She would have never put it down. So what I'm learning out of all this is that, we want to, in parenting, there's always this question of like trusting your child's impulses. Well, if what the child is saying means something as far as guiding them and helping them grow in the direction that they want to move, listening to what they are saying is important. They're telling us what they want. But when they're afraid, we have to question their impulses. This is what I'm learning. Because a young child, just like any other adult, any other human, has has multiple sets of impulses going on within them. And fear-based impulses are frequently not the ones we want to be listening to, right? This is as true of ourselves as it is of children. I mean, in the kind of inner work, self-help world that I've spent a lot of time in, and that probably many of you have spent a lot of time in, the notion and the kind of like the injunction to not listen to fear, to remain in our core and do things despite the fear, go in the direction of our alignment, of our purpose, of our passion, despite fear, it's like a mantra. It's a constant thing. Well, in parenting, this shows up slightly differently because now we are making decisions for a young person, right? A 3-year-old can't decide. She's not going to be the one to like Google the dance studios in town and go find them out and drive herself there, right? That's our job. So now we have to listen to these responses and parse them. But I guess, and maybe this is like totally obvious, but like it really showed up for me yesterday. Oh yeah, I do need to listen to her. I need to be super, super sensitive to to what her impulses are and to where she's leading herself and thereby leading me as a parent. I got to be super attuned to that. And when she's operating out of fear, I need to be there and I need to be ready to make a decision for her that's in alignment with her deeper sense of purpose, with what she really wants, with what she's really after in her life when she's not coming from fear. And hopefully, little by little, that's what she'll align with. Not her fear. Her fear won't determine where she's headed, because the parents, myself, and obviously Katie will help her move where she truly wants to go. And there's just such an incredible analog there between my own decisions in my own life and then making these decisions as a parent. And I don't think I can do either one effectively without doing the other one effectively. My ability to do this in my own life and to get specific about what I'm doing next, to really invest in where I truly want to go and not let myself dissolve and deflect my alignment with a kind of barrage of options, which is, again, check out my last 2 posts. That's my thing. But my capacity to do that in myself is going to determine my ability to be actually skillful at that in my parenting, because I can't just do it in parenting and not do it for myself. She will very quickly eclipse my ability to, my ability to do that accurately will will run out of steam. It'll become disoriented if I'm not doing it for myself. So kind of an obvious lesson, but a big one, and a really, you know, it's one that parenting really drives it home and really kind of puts me right back in the position of recognizing the significance of it, because now I'm making decisions that affect the life of another human being very directly. So that's where I am today, people. Stay tuned. I'm coming back to you with my next project. So much love. Appreciate you. Oh my God, this conversation is, I work out so much in these posts and in the responses and the conversation that comes out of it. So thank you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.